Gabe, him from Texas, again, wanting to talk about supernatural versus natural and how to distinguish between them. Gabe, tell us a bit more about your position.
I apologize for giving you the stupidest question of the day. How do you distinguish between natural and supernatural? How do you teach your kids that magic is not real?
Not a stupid question. I don't know why you'd say that's a stupid question. It's a great question because this is actually a really big debate about what counts as naturalism and what counts as doesn't. There's like a whole Charles Popper, literally his whole life was about this stuff. Okay. It was like, how do we figure out what can we even be considered within the realm of science and what we can't? And that answer is actually changing like a lot. I don't think that there's one clear objective answer that's going to exist for all time, because like what my answer today would look like is already different from what it would look like 50 years ago or even 100 years ago, just based on the new kinds of methods that we've been able to adapt and use and discover for scientific inquiry, right? So it really just kind of depends. Like there's one way of describing it that says anything that we can interact with and observe, right, through our senses, sight, hearing, taste, what have you, counts within the realm of science and therefore counts within the realm of naturalism, which kind of like discludes a lot of things if you think about it, because like if God, for example, is something that we can see or hear or whatever, then that counts within the realm of naturalism. And that must mean that there must be some natural, the implication is that there's a naturalist explanation as to the things that we hear. Of course, Christians would disagree with that. So it also comes down to causal problems, right? Like, okay, if something is natural and we can observe it to be natural, does that mean that it has natural causes? It seems like for everything that we've observed, the answer is yes, which kind of discludes everything that's ever been supernatural ever, right? Because like ghosts and stuff don't really seem to have natural I guess somebody dying is a natural cause, but like, being able to go through walls and stuff, can that be explained through natural mechanisms? If not, it doesn't seem to be within the realm of naturalism. So I'm rambling here, but it's actually a really broad philosophical question that is more ambiguous than you might expect.
I have a thought, Gabe. Have you ever heard of James Randi?
Yes.
So for anybody who's listening and doesn't know who James Randi is one of my favorite people. He's up there with like Judge Judy, in terms of people that I just aspire to learn from.
Okay, hold on, pause. What do you mean he's up there with Judge Judy, Sydney? Let's
listen.
Talk about that.
I have people are allowed to have heroes, Dan. People are allowed to have heroes. And since Betty White left this earth, and I can't name Betty White, Judge Judy gets put up in spot number one.
Well,
but it's
James Randi left the earth too, so does he get knocked out?
But James Randi is here with us in spirit.
Then
James
why is
Randi
it Betty White? I'm confused.
Yeah, okay.
Betty White's here. James Randi's here. Anyway, for anybody who doesn't know who James Randi is one of my favorite people, who alive or dead, who is a former magician who made a career out of debunking magicians. He had a show where he offered millions of dollars for anyone who could come on his show, perform a magic trick, and he could not debunk this magic trick. The thing is, nobody ever won the money because he was able to debunk every magic trick that somebody brought onto his show. And magicians came from all over the world at variant levels of fame to try and debunk and win, or not debunk, but to not be debunked and to win James Randi's money. So I think on just a simpler level, the way that I would teach a child if I had one to not believe in magic while also still having fun, having an imagination, finding joy in things like Harry Potter books and things like that, would be to just introduce them to people like James Randi, to allow them to be exposed to things like magicians, to be exposed to books like Harry Potter, but then to also say, hey, look at this cool guy, James Randi, who used to be a magician. This used to be his job. And now he gets to show us how all these magic tricks are done. You're not saying magic isn't real and anyone who believes in it is causing problems. You're saying magic is a really fun game. And there's people out here who can show us how that game works. Magic isn't real, but much like, I'm going to get hate for this one, much like wrestling, it's not real, but there's ways that we can still enjoy it knowing that what we're watching is a show. I'm probably never going to be welcome back on the internet after saying that. Does that make sense though, Gabe?
Yeah, it makes sense a little bit. I had an argument with a Christian about the resurrection of Christ because I told him, well, it's a supernatural event. You can't know it's real or not. And he was trying to tell me, how do you differentiate which is natural and not natural? And I didn't have an answer for that.
But see it, and first of all, I need to correct myself because I said Charles Popper earlier, and I'm dumb. I meant Karl Popper. I don't know why I said Charles. It's Karl. I'm dumb, and nobody should listen to me about anything ever. But let's think about this. Okay, so the resurrection event. Did people see it with their eyes? Yes, right. Like that's part of the story, right? People saw it. So that must mean you could say, okay, that there was at least a ghost or something that light bounced off of that went into people's eyes, right? And we're able to observe. That's within the realm of naturalism, right? That's actually not as paranormal as one might expect. There's at least some observable mechanism, at least that should be happening there. Otherwise, there has to have been another way for us to receive that information. You see why it becomes unclear, right? Was this actually as supernatural as people say? Like the blending between these two realms are not as distinct or concrete as people often make it out to be. So that is something that you could analyze scientifically in a way, and I would argue that makes it a natural event of some kind. So that's what I'd tell your friend.
Yeah, and that's a similar argument that I use in these conversations, is that if you're making the claim that the supernatural realm interacted in some way with the natural realm, we should be able to see the effects on the natural realm, right? Like if God is actually having an impact on things, we should see that somewhere. And even if you take a deist perspective, if their idea is that God created things and then just let them go with it, that's still a way that the supernatural interacted with the natural, and therefore we should see evidence of it. And so I think we're on the same page with that particular argument. And I think that could be a great way for you to engage with your Christian friends.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for calling in. We appreciate, that's a great question. And it's a common question that I think gets brought up in theist versus atheist arguments as, well, how do you know the difference between the two? So thank you for calling in, Gabe. We appreciate you kind of kickstarting that conversation.